Child's Play wasn't just horror, it was consumer mania, shrink-wrapped and sold as love. But behind the toy shelves and midnight commercials, it was innocence built to kill. The 11 hands that stitched a smile into madness, the studio that tossed the doll away and watched it come back swinging, and the buried cut that whispered a darker truth, one the vault still keeps quiet. These are 20 weird facts about Child's Play, and hidden inside the boxes and the batteries, it was the toy craze that birthed a killer, a smile that never blinked, a promise that never died. Number 1. Before Chucky ever picked up a knife, America had already lost its mind over toys. It was the 1980s, the era of Cabbage Patch riots, where parents threw punches in toy aisles just to get their kids a doll. Writer Don Mancini was watching, half amused and half horrified, as adults clawed each other over plastic smiles. That's when the question hit him: what if the toys fought back? His first script wasn't even called Child's Play. It was a dark satire named Batteries Not Included, about a doll called Blood Buddy, a toy that bonded with children through shared blood. When a kid got angry, the doll would come alive to take revenge, a literal manifestation of repressed rage. It wasn't voodoo yet. It was consumerism gone feral, a horror story about marketing itself. Then Spielberg's company claimed the title Batteries Not Included for their sci-fi film, forcing Mancini to rewrite from scratch. The blood gimmick was replaced with a soul transfer, and Blood Buddy evolved into a red-haired good guy, cheerful, lifeless, and waiting to be possessed. Out of 1980s greed and holiday hysteria, a legend was born. Chucky wasn't just a killer doll. He was America's toy obsession turned inside out. Proof that in a world that worships consumer dreams, even innocence can turn around and bite. Number 2. Chucky wasn't always powered by black magic. In Don Mancini's original draft, the doll came alive through a child's rage, a metaphor for consumer pressure and bottled emotion. But director Tom Holland and co-writer John LaFia wanted spectacle. They wanted thunder, lightning, ritual, so they rewrote the heart of the story. Instead of a psychological curse, they gave Chucky a literal one, a dying killer transferring his soul into plastic through a voodoo spell under stormlight. Mancini fought against it, calling it the weirdest part of the movie, but the studio wanted something louder than metaphor. That compromise changed everything. One bolt of lightning, one ancient chant, and a possessed toy went from satire to legend. The moment Charles Lee Ray's soul hit that doll, horror found its new mythology. Number 3. Before it became Child's Play, the film cycled through names like curses that wouldn't stick. First came Batteries Not Included, until Spielberg's sci-fi project claimed it. Then Blood Buddy, a grim title that nearly doomed the movie before it lived. At last, the studio gambled on something deceptively innocent: Child's Play. The irony was perfect. Sweet, simple, and sinister all at once. It sounded like a bedtime story, until the killing started. There was even an old 1972 drama with the same name, but no one remembered it. That accident gave the film its mask, a harmless title hiding horror underneath. One wrong name, and Chucky might have died in obscurity. Instead, 3 quiet words sealed his fate and the audience's. Number 4. Charles Lee Ray wasn't chosen at random. He was built from evil itself. Don Mancini stitched the name together from 3 of history's most infamous murderers: cult leader Charles Manson, presidential assassin Lee Harvey Oswald, and civil rights killer James Earl Ray. 3 names that once haunted headlines, now fused into one twisted legend. It was part homage, part warning. Even before the first scream, audiences subconsciously recognized those syllables, a shiver of real-world darkness behind the plastic grin. Chucky wasn't just a movie monster. He was America's nightmare reborn in toy form, a reminder that evil doesn't need claws or fangs. Sometimes it just needs a name you've already heard on the news. Number 5. Before Tom Holland signed the deal, Child's Play was passed around like a cursed script. MGM wanted prestige, not pulp, and reached out to 2 heavyweights: William Friedkin, the visionary behind The Exorcist, and Irvin Kershner, who had just steered The Empire Strikes Back. Both read the script and walked. Friedkin thought it was too absurd to be scary, and Kershner refused to direct a movie about a doll with a knife. But when Holland, fresh off Fright Night, saw the script, he didn't laugh. He saw potential in its madness. Under his direction, the satire found teeth, the doll found personality, and horror found a new franchise. What others dismissed as ridiculous, he turned into ritual, proof that one filmmaker's no can become another's immortality. Number 6. Finding the voice of a killer doll was a nightmare all its own. Early on, producers wanted John Lithgow, his calm menace perfect for turning "Hi, I'm Chucky" into something chilling. When that fell through, actress Jessica Walter recorded every line, giving Chucky a ghostly feminine tone. But when test audiences heard it, they didn't scream, they laughed. Then came Brad Dourif. Fresh off One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, he stepped into the booth and unleashed something electric, half snarl, half sneer, dripping with venom and humor. He didn't just voice Chucky, he became him. That manic cackle, that sing-song mockery, every syllable alive with joy and malice. In that moment, the doll stopped being plastic. It found its soul. Number 7. Chucky might have been 12 pounds of latex and servos, but behind those tiny hands was an army. It took 11 puppeteers working in perfect sync to bring the doll to life. One for the eyes, one for the brows, two for the lips, more for each hand and finger. Every blink, smirk, and snarl was a dance of wires, motors, and muscle memory. Each scene became a war between man and machine. The cables tangled, the servos jammed. Sometimes Chucky froze mid-attack, forcing the crew to reset every wire just to make him blink again. And when technology failed, humans stepped in. For wide shots and stunts, actors climbed into full Chucky suits, running, falling, fighting, and hurling themselves through chaos. They crashed through glass, tumbled down hallways, and slammed into furniture just to make a toy look alive. By the end, the bruises were real, the sweat was constant, and the blood, occasionally, was too. What looked like puppetry was actually endurance. Behind that devilish grin was a small army of artists bleeding for every movement. They didn't just control Chucky, they became him. Every scar on screen belonged to someone who refused to let the doll die still. Number 8. Every killer needs a stand-in willing to get hurt, and for Chucky, that was Ed Gale. The stuntman wore a full rubber suit, a child-sized version of the doll, while crawling through oversized sets designed to make him look tiny. Doorways towered, tables loomed, even pencils looked like spears. When it came time for the fiery finale, Gale didn't fake it. He walked through real flames for up to 40 seconds at a time. No CGI, no green screen, just heat and instinct. During one take by the fireplace, a cable slipped and he fell 6 feet onto his back. He was injured, but the shot stayed in. The doll got the glory, the man got the scars, and horror history got its realism the hard way. Number 9. Filming in Chicago's winter turned the set into a survival test. The breath you see on camera, it's real. The chill you feel through the screen, also real. Chris Sarandon spent hours shouting over wind and snow until his voice gave out completely. Catherine Hicks' tears froze mid-scene, her dialogue trembling more from the cold than fear. The crew worked with heaters between takes, but the weather wouldn't relent. Blizzards buried equipment, and ice formed on the doll's plastic skin. What was supposed to be a studio thriller became a test of endurance. Even Chucky's laughter echoed differently in the cold, sharper, crueler, like the wind itself had learned to sneer. Number 10. Before chasing a killer doll through Chicago, Chris Sarandon was the villain audiences love to hate, the seductive vampire of Fright Night, and the arrogant Prince Humperdinck from The Princess Bride. When Child's Play came calling, everyone assumed he'd play the monster again. But Sarandon flipped the script. As Detective Mike Norris, he became the human heart of the story, skeptical, compassionate, and broken enough to understand the horror unfolding in front of him. No fangs, no cape, just grit and exhaustion. It was a rare twist, the monster of yesterday saving the child of today. For once, the man who'd terrified audiences got to protect them, and it fit perfectly in a movie where roles, like souls, never stayed where they belonged. Number 11. Chucky's dead stare wasn't unique, it was borrowed. The doll's glassy blue eyes were crafted from the exact same molds used for another horror icon, the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt. Both were designed by special effects genius Kevin Yeager, who specialized in creating monsters that looked disturbingly alive. The connection was more than coincidence, it was evolution. The same eyes that once peered out from a rotting corpse now glinted inside a child's toy. Under studio lights, those pupils reflected not innocence, but imitation. A reminder that in Hollywood horror, nothing ever really dies. The Crypt Keeper's gaze lived on in plastic, blinking back through Chucky with a cold, knowing grin. Number 12. It sounds like a sick joke. The creator of the world's most infamous doll falling for the movie's bravest mom. But on the Child's Play set, that's exactly what happened. Catherine Hicks spent her days battling a puppet designed to terrify her, while Kevin Yeager, the mastermind behind Chucky's mechanical grin, spent his nights making sure it worked. Between shots, they traded stories, then laughter, then something real. By the time filming wrapped, terror had turned to tenderness. A year later, they married, and decades later, they're still together. The man who made horror history ended up creating something softer, quieter, and far more lasting. Amid all the screams, Child's Play hid a love story, one stitched together by sparks, timing, and a killer sense of irony. Number 13. When Child's Play hit theaters, the terror didn't stay on screen. Across California, workers at a real appliance chain called The Good Guys suddenly found themselves haunted by prank calls. Night after night, the phones rang with questions. Do your dolls come alive? Do they kill people? Some callers even whispered, "Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?" before hanging up. The confusion turned into chaos. Parents showed up demanding refunds for toys the store had never sold, and managers begged reporters to stop printing the name. But it was too late. Fiction had replaced fact. The Good Guy's name, once meant to sell audio and video specialist, was now cursed forever. In the end, Chucky didn't just kill on screen, he murdered a brand, proving that once he learns your name, he never lets go. Number 14. When Child's Play hit theaters, it wasn't just critics who screamed, it was parents. Protesters gathered outside MGM's gates, waving signs that read "Ban the doll" and "Stop Chucky." News cameras rolled as church groups warned the movie would corrupt children's minds. Ironically, it was rated R, meaning those kids couldn't even see it. But outrage is free advertising. As the protests grew louder, ticket sales climbed higher, curiosity beat caution, and within weeks, lines wrapped around theaters. MGM didn't plan the controversy, but it couldn't have bought better marketing. The moral panic meant to kill the movie ended up reviving it. The doll had already won before he even left the toy box. Number 15. When Child's Play hit theaters in 1988, no one expected it to work, least of all the studio that released it. MGM spent $9 million making it, braced for embarrassment, and watched it rake in over $44 million. It became United Artists' second biggest hit of the year, outgrossing films with 10 times its budget. But success didn't save it. Only months later, new executives took over the studio and decided horror didn't fit the MGM image. Killer dolls and voodoo chants clashed with their family-friendly rebrand. So despite the box office gold, they dropped Child's Play like a cursed toy. No sequel, no future, no thanks. That's when Universal swooped in. They saw what MGM couldn't. A brand, a legend, a franchise waiting to happen. They bought the rights and resurrected Chucky for Child's Play 2, turning a one-off scare into a decade-spanning saga. Sequels, spin-offs, a TV series, even reboots, all from the movie one studio threw away. In the end, MGM's loss became horror's gain. The studio that didn't want Chucky created a monster they could never kill, a plastic grin that would outlive them all. Number 16. The original Child's Play wasn't the slasher we know today. It was something stranger, slower, and more psychological. Director Tom Holland's first cut ran nearly 2 hours, building tension like a mystery instead of a monster movie. For much of it, viewers weren't sure if the murders were real or if they were trapped inside Andy's imagination, a child grieving his father and blaming a toy for what he couldn't explain. Those early scenes dug deep into Andy's loneliness and hinted at Chucky's power long before the doll ever moved. But test audiences grew restless, and the studio demanded more blood, less doubt. About 25 minutes vanished, replaced by faster pacing and jump scares. Holland fought to keep his version and lost, leaving before the final mix was finished. The footage has never resurfaced. No deleted scenes, no director's cut, just whispers of what might have been. A darker, sadder story buried somewhere in MGM's vaults. Fans still wonder if that lost version wasn't scarier at all, but simply too human for a killer made of plastic. Number 17. When the scissors came down on the final cut, so did tempers. Director Tom Holland had built Child's Play around psychological tension, a slow burn mystery where you weren't sure if Chucky was real or a projection of Andy's trauma. But producer David Kirshner wanted something louder, bloodier, faster. The studio sided with the producer. Holland, furious over the lost scenes and tonal shift, walked off before the film was finished. The editing team and the puppeteers who'd lived with Chucky for months took over, patching together what they could. Somehow, it worked. Against all odds, the stitched-together version became a classic. The director left the doll behind, but the doll lived on, grinning wider than ever. Number 18. The movie's opening commercial for the good guy dolls wasn't parody. It was plagiarism by design. The team studied real 1980s toy ads frame by frame. The bright sets, the cheerful jingles, the impossibly happy kids. Then they copied them word for word, right down to the slogan. The result was eerie perfection. A fake commercial so convincing that test audiences didn't realize it was satire until the doll started killing. That was the point. Child's Play wasn't just mocking horror tropes, it was mocking the decade itself. A world that sold love in plastic wrapping and called it happiness. The only lie bigger than Chucky's was the one every real commercial had already told. Number 19. Behind all the blood and irony was something personal. Writer Don Mancini, a young gay man growing up under a strict father, understood what it meant to wear a smile you didn't feel. His story of a good guy hiding something violent beneath the surface wasn't just horror, it was metaphor. Chucky's cheerful mask over cruelty mirrored the fake perfection of 1980s suburbia and the pressure to perform normalcy while burying truth. Mancini later admitted that creating the killer doll was cathartic, a rebellion disguised as a toy. Beneath every scream and one-liner was his message to the world. Sometimes it's the smiles that scare you most. Number 20. Before the credits rolled, Child's Play almost ended with a lullaby. Composer Joe Renzetti and lyricist Simon Stokes wrote a chirpy jingle for the good guy dolls. Pure 1980s sugar, promising friendship and hugs in a voice so cheerful it hurt. It was meant to play over the end credits, a pop anthem masking pure evil. But when test audiences heard it, they laughed in the wrong places. The studio panicked and cut it at the last minute, burying the track in the vault. For decades, the song stayed silent, until the 2019 2015 remake resurrected the idea, this time with Mark Hamill singing the booty theme in Chucky's place. The melody never really died. It just waited, humming under its breath, ready to sing again when the knife came back out. Bonus fact: behind every sinister smirk was puppeteer Brock Winkless, the man who made Chucky breathe, blink, and grin. He operated the doll for years, crafting its lifelike movements frame by frame. But offset, Winkless was battling muscular degeneration. As the sequels rolled on, he lost the use of his hands, the very tools that gave Chucky life. Still, he kept working, even as his body betrayed him. He trained others to move the doll's face, guided by his voice alone. When he died in 2015, the crew called him the soul behind the plastic. The irony was cruel and perfect. The man who gave Chucky motion was slowly losing his own. But in every twitch of that killer doll's smile, his touch remains. Child's Play began as satire, a joke about consumer culture gone mad, and ended as one of horror's most enduring legends. It fused voodoo and marketing, irony and blood, until the line between toy store and morgue disappeared. Chucky wasn't just a monster. He was a mirror, reflecting the 1980s obsession with products, image, and false perfection. And somehow, decades later, that plastic grin still feels like prophecy. If this movie ever made you look twice at your toys, or taught you that innocence can lie, drop a comment. Tell us your favorite Child's Play moment, or the scene that still gives you chills. Because in the world Child's Play built, childhood never really ends. It just learns how to hold a knife.